Welcome to Ignite the CEO Within, the podcast where we dive deep into the minds of top business leaders to ignite your inner CEO. I'm your host, Mark McFatridge, founder of Quade, and with each episode, we bring you inspiring conversations with CEOs and business owners who share their experiences, insights, and lessons learned along the way. Get ready to be motivated, empowered, and equipped with the tools you need to succeed in your own leadership journey. Let's ignite the CEO within you. Welcome to another episode of Igniting the CEO Within. I'm Mark McFatridge, founder and CEO of Quade, and I am really looking forward to hanging out with you all today. Company culture is something that continues to be an area of focus for many companies, and rightfully so. Our friends at SCORE, S-K-O-R, led by Eddie Geller, share that companies with strong cultures generate 3 times higher revenue growth and 4 times higher profit growth than those with weak cultures. We all know by now that strong company cultures are way more than having ping pong tables and pizza parties and all that stuff. It's about engaging your employees, and they need to believe in the vision of the companies that they serve, and they need to be developed. And so a key component of that development piece is providing learning opportunities at all levels throughout an organization. Someone in the Quade community that I've witnessed spending a lot of time in the investment in developing a learning culture within her company and for herself is my guest today. Honestly, I could have tapped into so many things that she does well. It was super hard for me to narrow it down to just one topic. So, Nikki, welcome. Nikki Lewallen Gregory, founder and CEO of PeopleForward Network. Again, a woman of so many talents. It's so hard to pick one thing that you're so good at. Welcome.
Well, thank you. And I'm so glad to be here. And you know that I love this podcast and I love seeing the growth of it. And I'm excited to have the tables turned and be a guest. So thank you for inviting me.
Wonderful. So as I said, Nikki, founder and CEO of PeopleForward Network, we call it PFN. PFN is a provider of podcasting, communications, partnership services. She brings a lot of people together. But one of the key components is they do have to be people-focused leaders, people-focused companies. It's been fun to watch. I've been blessed that Nikki has allowed me to hang around her and her team for the last several years, and I've seen firsthand their focus on personal and professional growth and bringing people together who have these similar values. So, Nikki, like literally you as well as anyone know the drill here on Igniting the CEO Within, because a big part of why we exist came from you. So we're going to kick it off and we're going to give you the floor and have you tell us your journey to the launch and leadership of PeopleForward Network.
Oh, well, thanks, Mark. And I was like, I'm not exactly sure where this conversation will go and where we'll deep dive, but something that came to mind that I think we really can deep dive in today is the power of modeling the way. It's one thing to say it, we're a people first company. A lot of times I will remind people about the reason why we call it people forward is because it's a big difference between the aspiration of people first and throwing that verbiage around on your website or using it as a recruiting tool. But the inaction, the doing, that's where people forward came from. And the modeling the way is part of our company culture. We hold ourselves to, as a team, calling each other out if we're not doing the things. Like, wait, guys, we're really lacking on us taking time for us and developing us. We're doing this for all these other people. So I think going a deep dive on really modeling the way, not just saying it, but doing it, and sharing some things around that. But, I'll take you back to, growing up. I started playing sports when I was 4 years old. I have one brother, and my brother's younger than I am. And my dad didn't know that when I was 4, because my brother's 4 years younger, so he was just born, that he would only have one child that would be an athlete, would want to play sports. He grew up wanting to be, as his idol, Bobby Knight. For those of you that know IU, I went to IU, go Hoosiers. And if you know Bobby Knight very well, you're like, to have a dad that's your coach that wants to be Bobby Knight. It's a lot of pressure, but that was the way that life went. And my dad loved to play Bobby Knight with me. And it was about winning. We are going to win. And if we fail, we are going to get out there. We're going to practice until we win. And winning is it. What I did find along the journey, though, even though my dad was so focused on winning and didn't really love the failure side, like I had to learn the embrace failure, and that's part of the journey. I know in his heart he knew that, but it was anything for me to be the shining star and the lead on the team and to win. But then to learn over time that winning wasn't alone. Like I wasn't out there playing golf. We just came off the Masters, and it's so cool to see, in golf, yes, there's a lot of team members, but man, that one player, I mean, it is this individual sport, and you watch how they do that versus like in a team dynamic. To win, you have to really understand, particularly as the shining star, the lead on the team, how do you bring all these other people along with you? And I don't think that started to sink in for me until I was maybe in like junior high or high school playing. And such a transformative understanding that when you start to lead others and take, the shining star off of just the person that wants to win, but we do it together, that's an incredible shift, right? As most of us leaders that are listening would know or understand. And so I had this wiring for winning, and it created this drive in me and this always figure it out, just always figure it out, but also to embrace failure. When I was 20, I want to say 26, I idolized this lady. Her name, she's in the Indianapolis area. Some of you might know her. Name's Lorraine Ball. And Lorraine could stand up in front of a room. So now I'm in the business aspect of life. I'm like my first job, right? And I'm seeing this CEO take the stage with the most cool as a cucumber or whatever you call it. She could engage a crowd and you could hear a pin drop. I mean, you're so locked in her stories. The very first story that she told when I was, I think, like 26 years old was about being in a bakery with her father, and the cupcake fell on the ground and she had to grab the cherry. There's a whole story behind it. But I remember that very first story. And all I remember thinking was, if I only had the confidence to do that, my career could go in so many better directions. I'm scared to death to public speak. At that point, I was like, how does she do that? I mean, I would sweat just watching her. But I admired that. And something in me said, you've got to overcome that fear. You got to figure this out, because what you want to do in life, you're going to have to take the stage. I got referred because I started, being a networker, relationship builder. I asked, who do you know that can help me overcome this fear? And I got a couple referrals to, a couple core names kept coming up. One of them was Tommy Richardson. And someone said he was the global president, ran the World Association for Toastmasters. I didn't even know what Toastmasters was. And so they explained this, and that he ran the world. He had taken all the competitions. I was so nervous, but I did get an introduction and had that first meeting with Tommy. And I remember he came in, and this guy, the presence, like, he walks in a room with still today. He's like almost 90 and still crushes it on stage. And the way that he walked in and the way that he helped me understand like why I'm fearful and what I would have to approach in that, I got my checkbook out of my purse. I had a job at the time, but I got my checkbook out and I wrote my first check for my coach at like 26 years old to help me with public speaking. But the thing that he said was, we're not starting with public speaking. We're starting with, why are you on this planet? What are you here for? And I need you to clearly understand that, so that when you take that stage, you've got the most confidence. Like, you're here for this purpose. It's not you trying to teach something that you're nervous about because you're not an expert. It's about your life. And we're going to start with your life journey. And I've never not had a coach since then. And he taught me to be addicted to betterment, truly, like to always be pouring into myself. And I love to be the ripple effect of what Tommy did to me, challenging me and teaching me and telling me I could do it and giving me the enablement for my team and those around me. And I hold myself to that too.
All of that's amazing. There's a ton to unpack, right? Of just that desire to win. And I think as I start to think through that, right, everybody has their own definition of winning, and it becomes harder when you leave, high school sports or whatever, because, there's a scoreboard, right? And whether you won or lost on that scoreboard. And then you start to get in life and there's no real scoreboard. You have to create that scoreboard on what it is. And sometimes that can be unhealthy, right? Of how we measure ourselves, what quote unquote winning is, and how we go about achieving it, much like much like how Bobby Knight led to winning, which I was never a Bobby Knight fan because of, at least on the appearance, how he led winning. I much liked Brad Stevens or somebody like that is much calmer and seemingly a different type of teacher. But anyway, I think going back to that of, okay, so now you're 26 years old, you hear this speech, you meet Toastmaster guy, and you start to define what winning means in you. So what did that? I mean, as you just said, it became more than just learning how to be a good public speaker. What did you, what was next? What did you start identifying as winning in your world at that point, which then led you to XYZ?
Funny how this might be a therapy session all of a sudden, because
I
I'm
love
holding
it.
back a little tears here, but I start to think about how every year at the beginning of the year, I get a journal, and now my husband and I do this together. I've had lots of failures in my relationship past, and now I have the husband that I always dreamed of, and now we do planning together. But I've done this ever since Tommy taught me to have, like, this is my journal for my life for this year, and to collect all of these and keep all these and watch and reflect on the growth that I do as a high achiever. Sometimes you're just on to the next thing, right? And you forget the amazing accomplishments if you don't have this. And so this is my 2025 book. And I start, ever since I learned it with Tommy, probably in the first or second session, this is a life wheel. And
Uh-huh.
this changes all the time, where this is my whole self. And if you look at maybe Bobby Knight's teachings, Bobby Knight might have one or two pieces of pie. Like, you're just like laser, but you kind of forget, the whole side of your whole life. And, now I have my dream husband, and he's got a piece of the pie that's very important: God and financials and my health and my key relationships, my bucket list, my business, my joy. So these change every year. One of our dear friends, Tina Moe, was recently on the podcast, and she's part of Quaid as well. She became a grandmother in the past year. And so we were talking about, like, with Life Wheel, now that's one of her slices of pie. But I will say that I learned this, gosh, it's going on almost 20 years ago that I learned this, but it's become my guide for when I think of my whole self and what matters to me now, and what mattered to me in 2024 when I got started versus what matters to me now. Here's my life wheel. And then I'm going to look at what is a hell yes in every area. The best relationship, my best financial situation this year, my best health, and then use that as a guide, my roadmap. My whole team does this as well. And, it's just like the ripple effect of modeling the way. Until I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what makes me emotional is like how I met Tommy. He's nearly a family member. David, my husband, just had coffee with him last week. And I'm like, how'd it go with Tommy? He's like, he can't even talk. He's like, that guy is so freaking inspiring. I'm like, to watch the ripple of how that impacts my husband, the people in my life that my first coach continues to be a coach for. And now his teachings, how those ripple onto the people of my team. I mean, that's why I'm like, this is almost a therapy session, because I hadn't really thought about it, but you learn it and then you teach it. And everybody on our team does that together. They're teaching things that they learn from their coach to bring in, and be a learning, coaching, accountability team together.
Yeah, no, that's I love that, and I think one of the things that you touched on, without saying it in my words, are you evolve over time, right? And as you say, you look back at your wheel every year and watch the growth and where it changes and all that kind of stuff. I think one of the things that the generation that's entering the professional world now, or has been out there in a couple of years, the last few years or whatever, they want everything to be right now, and they're defining their success of what they think they want to be 15, 20, 30 years from where they are today. And it's just so hard to do because they don't know how they're going to evolve. You don't know how you're going to evolve. I don't know how I'm going to evolve over this next year. What's priority for me in 2025 was not a priority in 2021 or 2015 or 2010 or whatever. And I'm better for it because I've been open to accepting these new challenges and accepting these new opportunities and experiencing different things that have helped me grow and understand what I like, what I truly like that I didn't know about, 10 minutes ago. Now I love it. And it's something that I want to be a part of my life going forward. And can mean that I'm going to move some stuff to the side to make more room for that. And I think that's probably a piece of that pie that you're talking about, of sometimes these pies are really wide, pie pieces are really wide, and sometimes they start to narrow over time. But I just think doing what you're doing and having done it for so long, that evolution of who Nikki was when you were 26 is completely different from who you are today.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you one thing that's majorly different is I do not get wrapped up in perfection. I grew up, my mom, I talked about my dad. My mom was a straight A student. I mean, like to a T, follows the rules, does everything and make sure that it's A plus, right? And so between Bobby Knight and A plus mom, right? There's not much room for failure. And I started to learn that just getting it out there, just doing it and embracing the experience. And I think that's such a part of life that I'm still learning myself. I definitely have gotten away from the perfection thing. It actually is a trigger for me. But to just embrace the journey and just to realize that like what you're doing right now in the midst of the hard, probably most likely you're going to look back and be like, gosh, those were the days. And right now I'm aspiring to be at this next stage with my business and frustrated that we're not at that revenue number or whatever. But what happens when we get there? Right. Like, yeah. And I'm super excited to reach that goal. Like that'll always be inside of me. But just like I was sharing with Lucy, who is on our team and is behind this podcast, does production stuff. Lucy is on a solo travel trip. And, something came up around, I've done some solo travel and really enjoyed that. It's not for everybody, but I said, man, milk it up, because the day that I'm putting these words in Lucy's mouth, I'm just going to play if I was her for a second. I'm going on this solo trip. It's the first one of my life. Maybe I'm looking for that dream spouse. I'm not there yet. I'm doing the solo trip. This is new for me. And I'm working on the dream spouse, but you only get that time and space to do that solo trip before you get married and you have that dream spouse, hopefully, for everybody. But there's a time and space to just embrace this and to be present in that, in that, and to just enjoy the journey and trust the process. It sounds so cliche, but that's my learn. Like I've overcome the perfection thing. Again, like I said, it's a trigger for me, but the whole like trusting the journey, even when it's hard, because you look like right now I'm dealing with a project and I look back at how I can do this project now. I'm like, how do I know that? Like I was almost like patting myself on the back. Like, how do I know to do that? And I remember how hard something was and I learned it in a very challenging way so I can coach somebody else through it if I hadn't gone through that. But during the time it sucked. And I was like, just get me out of this. But now it's like reaping the benefit because I planted those seeds during that time, and I think many people just steer away from that and they'll shy away and dive out. But it's just, you'll look back and be like, man, the shit days were the days, like a lot of times.
We'll dive back into the conversation in just a moment. But first, a quick word from one of our strategic partners, Ice Miller. For more than a century, Ice Miller has helped clients navigate the full range of legal and business issues they face. Whether it be in the boardroom or the courtroom, our lawyers have evolved with the marketplace, providing sound counsel when you need it the most. Though our Midwest roots run deep, we serve clients from coast to coast and bring to bear international capabilities and insights. As a cohesive team, Ice Miller stands ready to provide cutting-edge legal solutions tailored to you. Learn more at icemiller.com. Well, yeah, and that's, my phraseology on that is pocketing experiences, right? Like I've been blessed over my life to be exposed to all kinds of different types of people, good leaders, bad leaders, all these things. But one of the things that I learned early on was just pay attention, like watch. And, some of the things you don't even have to experience yourself. You can watch other people. And if you pocket, in your left pocket, all this good stuff to do when you face a situation, and you in your right pocket, put all the things off what not to do when you're in that situation. You've built up that experience yourself, and you know how to react when you face that. So my phraseology is we're saying the exact same thing, which is really cool. Of pay attention and let it happen, man. And just and when you get in that situation, you're going to know how you're going to make it happen in your own way.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna take up all of our time talking about this fun stuff, but so real quickly, get us into entrepreneurialism and what ultimately led you to found PeopleForward Network.
Yeah. Well, um, I have a coach. So we know Amy Woodall on this channel, right? So I think she was the very first guest.
She was.
So Amy and I worked together back in the day. I don't know if you know that, Mark, but Amy and I used to be on the same team in the years when Tommy came into that office.
Okay.
This was before Amy had joined the team there at this company called Rainmakers. And we both know Tim Roberts, who is where Amy went on to work with Sandler, right? And I remember one time Tim did this test with me. It was a version of, I don't know, assessment tool of some kind. And he's like, oh boy, you're one of those. I just remember he's one of those funny guys. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, your score on authority, like being able to honor authority or whatever. I only know one other person that like has a 1. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, you're always going to do it your own way. Like, it's just, and he said, so let's figure out how that applies to your career life. And at the time I was working for someone. I ended up buying that company later, that particular company that I was at. But he was like, it's just in your DNA that you're always going to be looking for the way that you can do it better and finding a team to come alongside that. So you might as well just like never go try to find a job after you leave this one. And it sticks with me because I went back and shared my mom. I shared that with my mom. This is kind of funny how this is tying together. And I was like, Mom, look at this report, and she was like, you should be ashamed of yourself. What do you mean you don't follow the rules? And I was like, Mom, this is how we're so different, but it's okay. Like, I can be different than you. We're just opposite in the spectrum. She would be 100 if I'm a 1, right? But then, I went on to journey around and did some more W-2 in the midst of kind of figuring out entrepreneurship and things. And I was like, it's just in my blood. The roller coaster is in my blood, and started to figure out, what am I so passionate about and what does it all boil down to? And at the end of the day, the core word for me is meaning. And I know that we spend the majority of our waking hours working, and how many people struggle with Mondays and live for vacations and the weekends. And I'm like, meaning mixed with this life wheel right here. And knowing that these pieces of pie, unfortunately, there's some of them that I wish were a lot more from a time perspective. But if you look at the one that takes up the most time, it's your work. And I'm like, I love to help make more impact on people loving Mondays. So I've journeyed around with that for a long time. But at the end of the day, if I marry meaningful work with my strength in life, which is to grow revenue for organizations that I really believe in. So companies that impact meaningful work. So products or solutions that leaders buy that make workplaces better. And then I bring in my passion for winning in business and partnerships and revenue generation. And PeopleForward Network came to be because my dear friend Rachel Downey introduced me to podcasting as a way to naturally, not salesy, you're truly solving problems, helping to achieve dreams and solve pains. And you figure it out through a podcast, building relationships with people you would have never met. And it took over. And it became PeopleForward Network. So that's the quick summary.
That's awesome. Oh, thanks for sharing that. But that's really cool. So in keeping with that theme, and I love that that assessment piece, right? And how you just dove into it and really accepted it. But it also explains a lot of what I've witnessed with you and your team at PFN of your commitment to the growth of your teammates, right? And you can see it. You hear the language that they use. You watch the things that you are setting up to make them successful. What, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but what made you make that part of your mission, to commit so much so much energy and time and resources to the growth of your teammates?
Nothing brings more emotion in me than when I tell stories about the development of my people on the team. And I have told so many stories, and I try every time not to cry. Like, don't get me going on Ashley Young. Goodness gracious. Actually, she and I are celebrating. She's been at PFN for 3 years, but she's worked with me for, I think, 6. She was at Rainmakers with me, and she's like the yin to my yang. She's just incredible. And through the journey of People Forward Network, she started to follow Mel Robbins, and through like the podcasting efforts and all of that. And so we began to share like Mel Robbins learnings together. And so for her anniversary this year, I said, I have an idea. You want to go see Mel Robbins live? So we're going to Boston in 2 weeks. She's never been to Boston. I said, pick the city. Let's do this as a fun, get out of the office and do something fun together. But we'll get to go see Mel Robbins and learn together and spend some time relationship wise. And someone I was sharing with a friend on a walk recently that I'm doing this, and I said, I'm just really excited about it. And she said, the fact that like that's how you're spending your time, like your personal time, like you're like, and money, like that it means so much to you and you're excited about it. And I don't even think about that until somebody says that. It's just so in me that like I want to, for the people on my team and the people closest to me, my best friends, like my best friends will say, if you want somebody that has your back, like I have a few really, really, really good friends, and I will do whatever it takes to help them. I think you have to have you got to put limits on your relationships. And that's also something that I've learned over time is every year when I do my planning, I plan out my core relationships. I literally do. Like I rank my contacts and who I'm going to be spending the most time with, and the A's, the B's, the C's. Like people joke with me. They're like, what letter did I get? I'm like, okay, that's funny. But really like the people that I want to go deepest on in relationship building and my team members are, I don't have kids. I have 4 stepkids. And I mean, I don't want to say that I'm my team member's mom. I mean, but I just get a lot of joy out of like, man, they got their first house,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
they got to like, get to that next level of a degree or whatever. Like I get a lot out of being part of that.
Yeah, you can tell. And like I said, you can feel it when you talk to a PFN member of what that looks like and feels like. So, I'm gonna ask this. It's almost rhetorical at this point, but what impact on your company culture have you seen this commitment to their growth, to their personal growth and professional growth?
Gosh, I wish I could put it in words, but it's this modeling the way thing that, I said in the beginning, I'm like, I'm not sure where we're going to go here, but that's the first thing that clicked in my mind that I wrote down. Really, they do. They're like, this is how we do it here. Like this is how we do it. Like you are growing or you're dying. Like, you are working on goals or you probably don't want to be here. Like we are real fast paced, like really fast paced. And that's not for everybody, and that's okay. And, I think you have to figure out almost like I am obsessed with business partnerships. And I believe actually Mark, you and I were just talking. It's like, hey, you have 5 of these core relationships, and that's like the engine for Quade, right? Like I love talking like that. And I think about the people on your team, you have to think the same way. They have to be obsessed with your why for them to stay beyond the average tenure today. What is it? 2.5 years? Okay. So, and I will say 2.5 years is completely fine. If that's the time period that they like, I have no issues with that. If it served the purpose and we were a hell yes together at that time, no big deal. But beyond that, if you're looking for more of that longevity and planning, because partnerships, you want them longer usually than 2.5 years, the why has to be there, the pace, the growth orientation of who we want to be as people, the commitment of it. There's so many things that have to be aligned. And I think we have to think about that from a team member's perspective. I've had people on our team, my team, way outside of PFN. They're like, dude, she's like burnout central. Like, and I could be like, because to me, I am fast paced. Let's go, let's try it, whatever. However, on the flip side, we're working towards a 4-day work week. We've been doing that for a while. We're a 4.5-day work week now. No one's working outside of like we all design our hours. No one's working super crazy hours, right? But the time that we're working, it is V8. Like it's like let's go. And that's just and it's not for everybody, but you need to learn when you're recruiting and aligning, unless someone just snowballs you and tells you there's somebody that they're not, like figure that out in the beginning to align, not just like I guess it's so much culture fit, right? That's really what we're talking about is aligning for culture fit and not feeling like, oh, I'll figure it out with them over time. I'll mold them. Like we'll get them there. Mm-mm. Trust me. Trust me, failed on that one multiple times.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And I think you're definitely onto it because you have to be able to communicate what this is going to look like, what it's going to feel like. It's got to feel comfortable to them. They've got to believe in your why. They also have to know that they do have your support. Like, I've done it and I know you do it over time is, look, I only have one CFO. And so if you want to be a CFO, as long as this person is still here, you're and doing the job that they're supposed to, you might not ever be a CFO here. I see it as my role to get you to the CFO if that's your goal. It may not be here, and that's okay. I believe in you so strongly that we're gonna, if it's 2.5 years, that's freaking great. It's gonna be the best 2.5 years I could get out of you, how you can put into, and you are gonna be set up to be successful wherever you are. Hopefully it's here. May not be. But whatever it is, I got you. I got your back, and we're going to grow you to where you want to be. I had a quote one time of there was two people that were on my team, and they said, do not, unless you are ready, do not ever share your goals with Mark McFatridge, because he will drag you kicking and screaming across the finish line of your goals. So it's that type of stuff. And that's the culture that I see at PFN. So congratulations. That's pretty amazing. So let me switch gears really, really quickly because, we've talked about the culture that you're building and the professional growth that you're delivering and help delivering to your teammates and all that at PFN. But one of the things that as CFOs and founders and entrepreneurs that we often forget is the investment in ourselves. So, I mean, you talk and you've already shared a handful of things that you do, but what other types of what does learning look like for you? I'll just say that and leave it at that.
Yeah, so definitely important. And I think that, it's the easy to do, easy not to do, where you can overlook it. And then I haven't done anything in like 6 months for myself to develop myself. So it's really important to prioritize and have accountability buddies around that. So I have a couple of different peer groups, been involved in Quaid for the past couple of years. That's how we got to know each other. I had gotten a referral from someone and then got involved with Quaid, and then we became friends as well, Mark. So peer groups, accountability groups, and then you've got your regular system. That's what I like, is like a dedicated date, and I have a small group of ladies that are deep friends, and we travel together and hold each other accountable. We're texting each other regularly. Hey, what are you doing for your health this week? When are you getting to the gym? Things like that. Let's see. So I'm actually, Mark, I don't think I've told you. I haven't told you. Our team right now is planning. We do sprints every month. We do less than 5 goals. It's newer for us this year, where it's like not overwhelming. It's like, let's all team decide on these core goals and everybody's working on those. And then everybody gets a bonus if all of those are hit. And one of them is prepare for Nikki's sabbatical. So I am going to be off for about 3 weeks. And this is the first time I've ever done this, where really it's a test to step away and test without me. And also because I just need time, A is test without me, but then also I want time, and it's a good time. I love to be on a lake. My husband and I both are very, very similar. Like, talk about assessment tools. We're nearly the same person. So we work at a similar pace, both entrepreneurs. And we know that getting out to a lake and nature, that's our jam. So that is something that we do regularly. This weekend will be like the first spring weekend that we get to do that. So taking time away in nature is so important. Having my core peer groups is so important, and my accountability buddies. Our team, we do team meetings every week, 2 times per month live, 2 times per month asynchronously, which if anyone wants some tips on that, I have been obsessed with learning it. It's so fun. And then we have each team member every month rotates around to have a teaching or social or something that they lead, and they get to pick their topic. And so it's fun to develop with team members. And then, as you could probably guess, I listen to a shitload of podcasts. So I'm constantly learning through podcasting and things. And we go into a conference here soon with Mel Robbins. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
amazing.
but just making sure, I think that the key is accountability. Like, do you have regular systems? Get it on your calendar. Otherwise, it's going to be the easy to not do.
Yep. Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, that's great advice. Nikki, we've unfortunately have to start to wrap this thing up. So I think what we need to do is schedule another specific special session of this podcast for you and me to just go on and on. But one of the things that has been so much fun for me to do is to tap into the head and the heart of our guests, and by asking for their I believe statement. So I'm going to throw it out there and say, Nikki, what do you believe?
I believe in dreams. I believe that all things are possible. And man, so many people don't take action on the dreams and just let the regularity of life set in. And before you know it, it's 5 years later, and then it's a decade and 20 years later, and you never did the thing. And I believe that all things are possible. You got to put it out there and you got to go get it. And man, those people are inspiring.
I love it. Nikki, thank you so much for being a part of the Quade community, a partner to Quade, a friend of mine. I really appreciate you and really everything that you stand for. So thanks for hanging out with me today.
Well, good. We got to come back on the podcast sometime and also go have some wine.
I'm in for both. Okay. Yep. Maybe we do it at the same time. I don't know. Can we do that? Is that okay?
We'd probably forget about the time limit, but
yeah,
I mean,
that's all right. Whatever. Yeah. We can edit things, right?
We can.
All right. Folks, I think we've done it again. We found another path to the CEO seat. If this or other episodes of Igniting the CEO Within have spoken to you, I'd love to learn about your journey and to explore how our community of CEOs can help you get to where you want to go. Until next time, I'm Mark McFatridge. See you soon. Thank you for joining today's conversation. If our discussion has sparked your interest in our community of unapologetically authentic leaders, head on over to QuadeCircle.com, where you can learn more about Quade and take our exclusive CEO Mindset Assessment to help elevate your leadership journey. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and leave a review to help us continue delivering valuable insights and inspiring stories from top business leaders.